Celeste Rowan mocked a black handyman before the buyers in the Maribel House lobby, then yanked the old blueprint tube from his hand to prove he had no place in a sale worth $180 million. Isaiah Bell told her the basement corridor was not storage. When the hidden blueprint unrolled across the concierge desk, the buyers saw the easement Celeste had left out, and her clean hotel sale began dying in front of everyone. The blueprint was heavier than it looked. Isaiah knew because he had carried it up from the boiler room wrapped in canvas and dust, both arms tight around the tube like it might try to get away. It smelled of old paper, machine oil, and the damp brick behind the north steam line. It did not belong in a glass lobby under chandelier light. Neither, apparently, did he. Celeste Rowan stood at the center of the lobby with 6 buyers from Alton Greer Hospitality, 2 lawyers, a lender's representative, and a photographer who had been told to capture the hotel's historic transition. She wore a cream suit and pearls at her throat, the kind of outfit designed to make a sale look inevitable. Isaiah crossed the marble floor in his work boots. Celeste saw him and smiled before he spoke. Not a kind smile, a useful one. The kind people use when they want a room to share the joke before knowing it. "Isaiah," she said, bright enough for the buyers, "unless that pipe wrench became a law degree, this is not your meeting." A few people laughed softly. Isaiah stopped near the concierge desk. "The basement service corridor can't be listed as unused storage." Celeste's smile widened. "Repairmen always think walls have opinions." "They do when people sleep behind them." That killed the laughter for half a second. Then Celeste stepped closer and put one hand on the canvas tube. "What is this?" "The original basement blueprint." Her eyes flicked to the buyers. "We have digital plans." "Not this layer." "Of course not." She laughed again. "You graduated from the University of Basement Dust and found a conspiracy." Isaiah kept his hand on the tube. "You need buyer counsel to see it before closing. We need you to stop frightening people with antique paper." She pulled. He did not fight her. Fighting would turn the blueprint into a tug of war and him into the thing she wanted the room to see. So he let go. The tube rolled against the concierge desk. Celeste popped the cap off with theatrical impatience and slid the blueprint out. "Fine," she said. "Let's all admire Isaiah's wall opinions." The paper unfurled across the black marble. The old hotel appeared in blue lines and faded annotations. Basement, laundry, freight lift, steam corridor, annex rooms, alley egress, buyer counsel. Nora Vale leaned forward. Her expression changed first. "Celeste," Nora said. Celeste was still smiling. "What?" Nora tapped the lower margin. Isaiah did not need to look. He had read the line under a work light at 2 in the morning. Emergency egress and worker housing easement. Not transferable, alterable, or convertible without certification. The photographer lowered his camera. One of the buyers said, "What easement?" Celeste stopped smiling. Maribel House Hotel had always been better at hiding its labor than its luxury. Guests entered under a brass canopy, crossed a lobby tiled like a jewelry box, and looked up at balconies trimmed in carved wood. They saw orchids on the desk, old photographs in silver frames, fresh citrus water, velvet chairs, and a staircase that swept upward as if the building had been designed for entrances, not exits. Isaiah knew the other hotel, the one under the lobby: laundry heat, freight motor, floor drain, old steam, grease trap, staff lockers, kitchen dock, boiler dust, dumbwaiter shaft, and the narrow basement corridor that night workers called Ruth's Hall. Ruth Bell had been his mother. She came to Maribel House in 1978 as a night laundress. She was 26, with a back that hurt by midnight and a laugh that could make tired people sit up straighter. When a coastal storm tore the roof from her apartment house, Maribel Rowan, the founder's granddaughter, opened the old worker annex to employees who had nowhere safe to sleep between shifts. Ruth stayed there with Isaiah for 11 days. He was 7 then. He remembered the smell of starch, damp wool, and tomato soup cooked on a hot plate someone pretended not to see. He remembered workers giving each other the best blankets without speeches. He remembered Maribel Rowan walking the basement corridor in slippers, checking that the exit to the alley stayed unlocked because she knew what it meant for tired people to have only one way out. 6 months later, a small fire broke out behind the laundry room. No one died because Ruth's Hall opened to the alley and because a bellman named Paco kicked the exit bar hard enough to bruise his heel. After that, the easement was written. Emergency egress. Worker shelter access. No sale, alteration, or conversion without certification that the route remained or had been replaced. Isaiah did not learn those words then. He learned them years later, after his mother died, after he became the kind of man the hotel called when the walls began telling the truth through leaks and heat and bad smells. He became handyman at 24. By 30, he knew which guest room risers groaned before a pipe cracked, which dumbwaiter pulley sang when it needed grease, and which staff slept in their cars after double shifts because rents around the hotel had turned cruel. The annex was not a dormitory, it was not charity. It was a legal, limited, rarely discussed refuge. When a worker lost housing to flood, fire, domestic violence, or sudden displacement, the hotel could use the basement annex as temporary shelter under the old clause. A union notice board carried the policy in 3 languages until Celeste removed the board and replaced it with a framed hospitality award. Isaiah kept a copy in the maintenance office. He also kept memory. That was why Pilar came to him at midnight 2 nights before the sale. Pilar worked housekeeping, nights when needed, mornings when childcare allowed. A pipe burst in the employee housing partner building across town, flooding 3 units. She and her 2 children had been moved to the Maribel Annex under the emergency worker clause. 4 other workers stayed there too, their belongings tucked neatly into old lockers because nobody wanted to look too permanent in a temporary place. At 11:46, Pilar called Isaiah from the basement. "The alley door won't open." He came down and found her standing in Ruth's hall with her daughter half asleep against her hip and her son holding a toothbrush. A new magnetic lock glowed red over the alley exit. "That wasn't here yesterday," she said. Isaiah tried his maintenance card. Denied. He used the manual key. The housing snapped but held. Someone had installed a plate over the old latch. He looked up. Temporary wall framing had been started just beyond the corridor turn, blocking sightline to the egress sign. A plastic sheet hung over exposed studs. On the floor lay a work order from a vendor he did not recognize. Pre-close basement clearance. Client Rowan Hospitality Group. Area inactive storage corridor. Isaiah took a photo. Then he went to the boiler room wall where old drawings were stored behind a rusted access panel no one had opened since the last insurance inspection. Most were useless. Steam revisions, elevator shaft sketches, a roof drain plan from 1956. But behind them, wrapped in canvas, was the full basement blueprint with the revision layer the digital packet no longer showed. Ruth's Hall, the annex, the easement. He read until 2 in the morning. Then he stopped reading and started walking. The next day, Celeste's property manager told him the basement access change was buyer prep staging and above his department. The seller disclosure packet described the annex as inactive storage. The digital floor plan showed no worker housing layer. The corridor was a dotted utility passage without the note that made it matter. At 4 that afternoon, buyers would tour the hotel. At 6, sale documents were scheduled to close. Isaiah wrapped the blueprint and waited for the lobby. Celeste wanted the lobby because the lobby obeyed her. Her great-aunt's hotel had become a boutique luxury property under Celeste's ownership, full of curated history and price nostalgia. She spoke about legacy often. Legacy photographs, legacy tiles, legacy cocktails. She liked legacy best when it came without obligations. Alton Greer Hospitality wanted Maribel House for a members-only conversion. Private suites, spa vault in the basement, wine tunnels, a cigar room, and a back entrance for guests who preferred discretion. The sale price was $180 million. The lender wanted clear title. Buyer counsel wanted clean easements. Celeste wanted closing before the Historic Preservation Review opened the next morning. The basement made the price. Underused back-of-house space, she told the buyers during the tour. Isaiah had been standing near the service elevator then, replacing a light that did not need replacing because he wanted to hear. Adrian Greer, the buyer lead, looked toward the basement stair with hungry eyes. "How much convertible square footage?" Celeste smiled. "Enough to make your members forget they're below grade." Laughter. Nora Vale asked, "Any living use below?" "None." "Worker housing?" Celeste's smile cooled by 1 degree. Not for decades. Isaiah tightened the bulb until it clicked. That was the lie he carried into the lobby. Now the blueprint lay open under everyone's hands. Nora Vale adjusted her glasses. Celeste, why is this easement not in the disclosure packet? Celeste recovered with practice speed. Because that plan is superseded. Isaiah said, no. She turned. You are not qualified to determine that. The corridor is still in use. For maintenance, for egress and worker shelter. Celeste looked at the buyers, laughing again, but softer. This is precisely why old buildings collect ghost stories. A generous emergency practice from another era becomes, in Isaiah's imagination, a permanent civil infrastructure. Nora did not smile. The language says not transferable without certification. Celeste's lead attorney, Martin Hale, stepped in. We will review chain. I suspect a later revision removed the restriction. Isaiah pointed to the lower right corner. Then show the later revision with the fire marshal stamp. Martin did not appreciate that. Adrian Greer leaned over the plan. What workers are using this area? Celeste said. No one. Isaiah said. 5 workers slept there last night after the employee housing flood. Celeste's face sharpened. That is unofficial staff camping. Pilar and her children were assigned by night management. Names of minor children do not belong in a lobby. They didn't belong behind a locked exit either. The buyers heard that. A lender representative looked up from her phone. Nora said, locked exit? Isaiah pulled out his phone and showed the photo. Red magnetic lock, temporary framing, egress sign half covered. Adrian turned to Celeste. Was basement work started before closing? Preliminary non-structural prep. Nora said, on an easement corridor? We do not accept that this is an active easement. Isaiah said, then come see the door. Celeste's eyes narrowed. We are not taking buyers into a dusty basement because my handyman wants a field trip. Nora rolled the blueprint carefully enough to make the gesture an insult. Yes, she said. We are. The basement did not flatter anyone. It took away the lobby's perfume in the first 10 steps. By the landing, the air tasted of old brick and laundry heat. By the second turn, the buyers had stopped using words like charm. Isaiah led them past the staff lockers, the freight lift, and the boiler room door. Malik Shaw, Alton Greer's engineer, walked beside him, flashlight in hand. Malik had come in skeptical and silent. The basement changed that. Engineers listen when buildings tell the same story as old paper. This wall is new, Malik said, stopping at the studs. Installed yesterday or early this morning, Isaiah said. Celeste walked behind them with Adrian and Martin. Temporary separation for construction staging. Malik pointed to the covered sign. It blocks egress visibility. The fire safety consultant, Janine Kroll, crouched near the magnetic lock. Vendor code? Isaiah handed her the work order photo. She read, approved by property management, 6:12 a.m. Nora looked at Celeste. Before buyer possession. Celeste said, property management misunderstood timing. Isaiah pointed toward the annex rooms. Pilar's cot is in there. So are 3 others. Celeste snapped, do not open private staff belongings in front of buyers. No need, Isaiah said. Ask them. A woman's voice came from the annex doorway. You can ask me. Pilar stood there holding her daughter's sweater. She had come from housekeeping, still in uniform, hair pinned badly, eyes hard from a week without sleep. Behind her, through the partly open door, were folded blankets, 2 duffel bags, a child's backpack, and a cot that nobody could call storage without wanting to. Celeste inhaled. Pilar, this is not appropriate. Pilar looked at Isaiah, then at Nora. I was told we could stay until the housing building was dry, she said. This morning, Mr. Venn told us the annex had to be cleared before noon because buyers didn't want a worker story. The basement went quiet. Adrian looked at Celeste. Who is Mr. Venn? Property manager, Isaiah said. Celeste said, he used careless language. Pilar's voice shook, but she kept going. He said if we stayed, housekeeping would be blamed for delaying the sale. Her little girl appeared behind her, clutching a purple toothbrush. Isaiah looked away first, not because he was ashamed of Pilar, because children should not have to stand in evidence. Janine stepped toward the alley exit and tested the lock release. It failed. "This is a life safety no-go," she said. Martin Hale said, "Let's not exaggerate. The freight lift has a bad sensor," Isaiah said. "Tagged last week." Malik checked the lift panel. "He's right. It's in fault memory." Janine looked at Celeste. "If that wall closes and the lift fails, anyone in the annex has one compromised route." Celeste's face was pale now, anger burning through the polish. "This entire tour has been hijacked by staff anxiety," Isaiah said. "Staff anxiety smells like gas?" Everyone stopped. He pointed toward the old boiler room vent. There it was beneath the damp brick smell. Faint, metallic, wrong. Malik moved first. He took out a detector from his bag and held it near the laundry vent. The device chirped twice. "Trace gas," he said. "Low level." Janine looked at the wall, the lock, the annex, the exit. "Clear this area," Celeste said. "Now we are manufacturing drama." Malik turned to Adrian. "I recommend no closing until the easement, gas hazard, and egress block are resolved." Adrian did not answer immediately. That meant the sale had stopped being clean. Celeste took the fight upstairs. She chose the private dining room off the lobby, where guests once ate lobster under painted ceilings, and now buyers discussed asset stacks under recessed lights. The blueprint lay on the table between water glasses and closing folders. The clock on the wall read 4:37, closing at 6. Celeste began with exhaustion, not anger. It was smarter. "Maribel House is in debt," she said. "The staff know it. Isaiah knows it. If this sale fails, there will be layoffs. Not theoretical. Real. Housekeeping, kitchen, maintenance, front desk, families." Isaiah stood near the wall. Pilar had gone back to the annex with Janine and a security guard, who finally understood which door mattered. Malik was documenting. Nora was on her laptop. Adrian sat across from Celeste. Not yet enemy. No longer friend. Celeste turned to Isaiah. "You love this hotel. I know you do." He did not answer. "This deal keeps it alive. It keeps the name alive. It keeps jobs alive. By locking workers behind a false wall?" She leaned forward. "You think I wanted basement cots? You think I wanted employees sleeping under a hotel that charges $800 a night? The sale funds a housing support reserve. The buyer has capital, we don't." Nora asked, "Where is that reserve in the packet?" Celeste ignored her. "Isaiah, make a statement. Say the annex is temporary storage and the corridor is not active worker housing. We will fund 3 months of staff housing assistance after closing." Isaiah looked at her. "You want me to lie so you can sell the hotel and maybe help the people the lie removes. Do not make me your villain because I understand financial reality. Financial reality didn't install that lock. Property management did, after your approval. You don't know that." Isaiah said nothing. Celeste looked away first. Adrian spoke. "Celeste, is there an active worker shelter use or not?" She turned to him. "There is informal emergency use that was never intended as a continuing burden on title." Nora said, "That sounds like yes." Celeste snapped, "It is a collapsing old practice being exploited to renegotiate a sale." Isaiah said, "After the last cot is removed, right?" Celeste froze. The room caught it. He had not said cot in the dining room. Adrian asked softly, "What did you just say?" Celeste recovered. "I'm using his language." Nora said, "He said annex. Pilar said cot downstairs. You said last cot removed." Celeste stood. "This is ridiculous. Martin, prepare seller clarification." Martin hesitated. "Celeste." "Now." The clarification took 7 minutes. No active worker housing use or protected egress remains in basement annex. Historic drawing superseded by operational change. Seller certifies no material easement conflict affecting transfer. Nora read it and said, "I won't accept this without attaching the blueprint for variance review." Celeste's eyes flashed. "You don't represent me. I represent the buyer who is being asked to purchase an easement dispute with a gas smell." Adrian looked at Martin. "If you certify, the portal will cross-check." Martin's silence said he knew. Celeste signed anyway. The property manager then scanned the memo into the closing portal from his office upstairs. The portal took less time than a person would have needed to regret it. Material easement conflict. Seller certification contradicted. Escrow hold notice transmitted. City Preservation Office notified. Lender review required. Then another file populated in the linked records window. Basement conversion. Pre-close clearance plan. Nora opened it before Celeste could object. The plan was not long. That made it worse. Remove cots before noon. Disable annex badges. Temporary wall to remain hidden until post-close certificate release. Reroute staff through kitchen dock. Market basement square footage as clean title expansion. No worker story before wire. The last comment carried Celeste Rowan's initials. For the first time since Isaiah had known her, Celeste looked less like an owner than a person caught holding the thing she had taught others to hide. Context, she said. Nora turned the laptop toward Adrian. The lender will not release tonight. Celeste looked at Adrian. This is curable. Not by 6. Then tomorrow, Nora said. Tomorrow the preservation review opens. Celeste's mouth tightened. Isaiah watched Adrian. There was a path where the buyer used the truth as a leverage. Lower price, cure on paper, move workers later. Call it complexity. Men like Adrian were trained to see defects as discounts. He looked at the blueprint. Then he looked at the basement photos. What exactly is required to ensure title? Adrian asked Nora. There it was. Nora answered carefully. Easement restoration or replacement, city certification, life safety clearance, disclosure of worker use, lender approval, possibly preservation review. And price impact? Isaiah said. You're still trying to buy it. Adrian turned toward him. I'm trying to understand exposure. No, Isaiah said. You're trying to price people. Celeste seized the opening. And there it is. Isaiah would rather kill the hotel than allow reality to be priced. Pilar entered before Isaiah could answer. She had changed out of uniform into a gray sweater. Her children were not with her. Janine stood behind her in the hall. I was told to remove the cots by noon, Pilar said. Celeste closed her eyes. Pilar looked at Adrian. Mr. Venn said if buyers saw the annex, we would all cost the sale. Adrian asked, Who is we? Me. Lena from laundry, Kamal from kitchen, 2 dishwashers from the flood building. My kids, Celeste said. Pilar, no one wants harm. Pilar laughed once. It was not humor. My son asked if the rich people need our beds because they do not have enough rooms upstairs. No one answered. Pilar continued. I don't need a speech. I need the door to open if there is smoke. Janine stepped forward. And tonight it does not. The lender representative, who had been silent too long, finally spoke. My office will not fund same-day release on this asset. Celeste turned. You have no authority to... I have authority not to release money. That was cleaner than justice and more effective. The sale died in pieces after that. Escrow froze first. Then the lender withdrew same-day release. Then Alton Greer's counsel declared the title uninsurable for the scheduled closing. Adrian did not walk away immediately. People with money rarely slam doors they may want to reopen, but he signed a notice that Alton Greer would not proceed with clean closing, and without clean closing, Celeste's 6 o'clock sale was dead. Celeste blamed Isaiah, not privately. She followed him into the lobby after the buyers stepped aside to call their offices. You understand what you did? She said. The lobby had fewer people now, but enough. Staff had gathered near the service hall. Buyers stood in clusters. The photographer had vanished, which was how Isaiah knew the night had become too real for promotional memory. Isaiah turned. I brought a blueprint. You sabotaged the only transaction capable of keeping this building out of receivership. You hid worker housing and blocked egress. I tried to keep a hotel alive. Hotels don't stay alive by making workers disappear. Her face flushed. You think that sounds noble because you don't read debt schedules. No. You think your mother's hallway is a moral document. Isaiah went still. Celeste knew she had gone too far. She went anyway. Ruth's Hall, isn't that what staff call it? Charming. But charm does not pay taxes, insurance, payroll, utilities, deferred maintenance. I inherited a building full of sentimental traps. Isaiah stepped closer, not enough to threaten, enough to make her stop using his mother as furniture. My mother got out of that hall during a fire because somebody left the exit open. Celeste's mouth opened. He continued. You wanted to sell the basement to people who would close that route, erase the annex and call it Upside. That is not a sentimental trap. That is the reason the trap was built. The staff heard. The buyers heard. Celeste heard most of all. For a second, he saw the fear under her anger, not fear of harm. Fear of losing control of the story she had sold herself. She did not see workers in the annex as people to crush. She saw them as evidence that her elegant rescue had not rescued everyone. That did not absolve her. It only explained why her eyes kept returning to the blueprint as if paper had betrayed her. Nora came into the lobby with the lender representative. Celeste, she said, the City Preservation Office has opened a preliminary inquiry. Escrow remains frozen. All basement access changes must be halted. Celeste stared at her. This is not over. No, Nora said. But the sale is. By evening, Maribel House no longer felt like a hotel waiting to be bought. It felt like a building waking sore from anesthesia. Temporary wall framing came down under Janine's supervision. The magnetic lock was removed. The gas leak near the laundry vent was traced to a cracked fitting and shut off. The annex workers were moved temporarily to vacant guest rooms on the third floor, which created more outrage from one assistant manager than any blocked exit had. Isaiah watched Pilar's children ride the guest elevator holding their backpacks. Her son looked up at the brass ceiling. Are we allowed? He whispered. Pilar looked at Isaiah. Yes, she said. Tonight we are. That should not have felt radical. It did. At 9:30, Adrian Greer found Isaiah in the basement corridor. The buyer had removed his tie and looked less certain without it. Mr. Bell. Isaiah kept tightening the hinge plate on the alley exit. Yes. I owe you an apology. No, you owe your counsel a thank you. She listened before you bought a lawsuit. Adrian accepted that. I was thinking in terms of defects. I noticed. I won't pretend otherwise. Good. Adrian looked down Ruth's hall. Without the temporary wall, the corridor seemed narrow, ordinary, and stubborn. My firm may still be interested, he said. Not now, not under the old terms. But if there is a supervised restructuring with the easement restored, worker housing replaced properly, city certification and preservation review, Isaiah cut him off. If your first thought is spa square footage, don't come back. Adrian looked at him. Isaiah held his gaze. If your first thought is where Pilar's kids sleep while you build, maybe talk to Nora. Adrian nodded slowly. That is fair. No, Isaiah said. Fair would have been reading the full plan before laughing downstairs. I didn't laugh. You didn't stop her. That landed. Adrian left quietly. The board and creditors removed Celeste from sole sale authority 2 days later. The official language was pending review of disclosure irregularities and life safety issues. That was what institutions said when they wanted consequences to sound carpeted. Celeste left by the side entrance. Isaiah did not watch. He had work. Receivership did not arrive, but supervision did. The hotel entered a restructuring plan that felt less like rescue and more like being forced to clean a wound properly. Painful, necessary, not beautiful. The worker annex was documented. The easement was recorded in the seller packet for any future buyer. A housing replacement fund was created from escrow holdback and insurance recovery from the employee housing flood. The city ordered the egress route restored and inspected quarterly. The gas line was replaced. The freight lift sensor repaired. Ruth's hall received emergency lighting bright enough that nobody could pretend it was a forgotten passage again. Pilar's family moved out of the annex after 6 weeks into a repaired apartment at the housing partner site. Before she left, her son drew a picture for Isaiah. It showed a hallway with a door at the end and a large red arrow pointing out. Isaiah pinned it in the maintenance office beside the old union notice. Art installation? Malik Shaw asked during a follow-up inspection. Fire education, Malik smiled. Same thing sometimes. Isaiah did not become a hero. He hated how quickly people tried to make him one. A magazine reporter left 3 messages asking about the handyman who saved the historic hotel. He did not return them. Staff thanked him in small ways he could accept. Coffee left near the boiler room, a sandwich wrapped in foil, Pilar's daughter drawing a tiny crown on his work order clipboard. He scratched out the crown, then he regretted it and taped the corner back on. 1 month after the failed sale, Nora Vale returned with a preservation consultant to review original building documents. Isaiah brought the hidden blueprint, now flattened between archival sheets. "We need a scan for the permanent packet," Nora said. "You get a scan, not the original." Agreed. She looked at the lower margin. "Walls remember use." What? That should be the binder label. Isaiah almost objected. Then he thought of Celeste saying walls have opinions. Maybe they did not. Maybe use became a language the right paper could translate. "Fine," he said. The maintenance training binder changed that afternoon. The first page showed the full basement plan. Ruth's hall highlighted, annex rooms marked, alley egress in red, easement language in plain English. Under it, Nora placed the label, "Walls remember use." Isaiah added a second line by hand, "Check before you convert." By spring, the lobby had lost some of its arrogance. Not all. Luxury is resilient. Guests still admired the chandelier. Influencers still posed by the staircase. Someone still complained when a service cart crossed too near cocktail hour. But staff noticed the difference. Buyers touring the property were now taken to the basement before the penthouse. Isaiah insisted. Some looked annoyed. Those buyers did not come back. One rainy evening, he stood in Ruth's hall while water ticked in an old drain and the new emergency lights hummed softly overhead. The corridor was empty, clean, marked, usable. He carried the blueprint tube under one arm, no longer hidden, no longer dramatic, just part of the building's truth. Pilar stopped at the alley door on her way out after a shift. "My son says this is your hallway," she said. Isaiah shook his head. "It's an exit. He says exits are important." "He's right." She looked down the corridor. "Thank you." He nodded once. After she left, Isaiah tested the panic bar. The door opened cleanly to the alley. Rain smell came in, city noise, a siren far away. The ordinary world beyond a door that might one day matter more than marble. He closed it and checked the latch twice. Then he went upstairs to the lobby, where a new group of potential investors would arrive in the morning. Their folders would be clean, their shoes polished. Their first questions would be about rooms, rates, rooftop rights, and basement potential. Isaiah knew what he would do. He would meet them by the concierge desk with the scanned blueprint already waiting. Not to stop every sale, not to keep the hotel trapped in memory, to make sure anyone buying the future knew where the exits were, who had used them, and what kind of lie a luxury lobby could tell when nobody looked down. The chandelier glowed above him. Below, Ruth's hall stayed open. Maribel House was still in trouble. Debt did not vanish because a blueprint told the truth. Repairs cost money. Workers still needed better housing than an emergency annex. The hotel still had to become something it could afford to remain. But that night, it had not been sold through a hidden door. That mattered. Isaiah turned off the lobby lamp nearest the concierge desk, tucked the blueprint into the maintenance office cabinet, and wrote the final note in the access log. Basement egress clear. Annex unlocked. No paper missing. Then he picked up his tools and walked back toward the stairwell. Walls did not have opinions, but they remembered what people tried to call storage. And sometimes, if the right person carried the old drawing into the light, they remembered loudly enough to kill a sale.